Chefs of Reddit, what are some red flags people should look out for when they go out to eat? Sick waitstaff. If restaurant owners encourage their waitstaff to work while sick, or don't help to find a replacement, you can count on getting sick too. For my NYC people, grade pending doesn't mean that the restaurant is awaiting judgment on their health inspection. It means that they failed and are given a grace period to fix their wrongs. Actual former chef here. These comments saying, don't eat whatever food on a day of week because it's leftovers. This is called utilization. Specials are just that. Things that we'd rather sell than throw out. Those of us who actually know what we're doing, carefully cool down and store things so they have as much menu life as possible. Only an idiot would throw away perfectly good, saleable food if it didn't sell on the first night. I was employed by a national pest control service, and the salespeople told me if the dining room is dirty or gross, do yourself a favor and walk out, cause their kitchen is gonna be much dirtier. There are also roaches at expensive restaurants, the same as there are at cheaper places. It's the restaurants that don't clean kitchens properly that attract pests and have continual problems. I was having lunch with some co-workers at a Chinese buffet and we all saw a cockroach run across the table. I said, at least we know the food isn't going to contain pesticides. I went to an IHOP, and there were ants crawling on the walls, so I told the waitress about it, and she said, what? Again? She could have covered that up in a better way. I was really hungry, so I just moved to another table, but those pancakes were so nasty. I still love IHOP, but I just won't go to THAT1 next time. That's a fancy that. Salt shaker. If the holes are clogged and the top is dirty, that thing has been refilled 100 times without washing. Late to this one, but as an ex-waiter I can't stand seeing waiting staff grabbing clean glasses at the top when handling them. If you're gluten-free, for whatever reason, please don't photo a from scratch Italian restaurant. Please. There's literally nothing we can do to get that shit out of anywhere. Thanks to the flour, it permeates the air. See, this is what's pissing me off about where I currently work. We do pizzas, from fresh, and every check has one. But we offer gluten-free bases, because sales. And I'm expected to make GF food in a kitchen that's been pelted with flour for 7 hours, when we're busy. Fucking nonsense. Former health inspector here. If there's a self-serve soda machine, go ahead and take a napkin around the inside of the Sprite/clear soda available nozzle. If your napkin comes out pink, brown, or orange, skip the soda. A Sprite nozzle should come out clear. It's pink or orange, then it's slime mold. It's actually a bacteria, but that's what we called it. If it's brown, it's likely cola. But if the cola nozzle was put on the Sprite dispenser and is still brown, you know the nozzles aren't being cleaned properly. Also, go ahead and look closely at the ice chute. I see green algae in those a lot. Edit, I knew someone would teach me something today. The slime mold is a protist, not a bacteria. Still not quite a mold, closer to a fungi. Almost. Microbiology is rad, everyone. Edit, or a bacteria called Des marcescens. Neato. Edit cubed, maybe rhodotorula. A yeast. This is likely what all my Subway commenters are seeing. Subway still bakes its own bread, right? Not a chef, but ex-restaurant manager. How happy is the staff? Do they seem like they like their jobs? If the staff are miserable, you're not going to get quality food or service. It's worth seeking out restaurants that treat their staff well. If they're treated well, they'll treat you well. Overworked staff. What cleaning jobs do you think are getting missed if staff are far too stretched and or unhappy at work? Avoid restaurants that are constantly having staff turnover for this exact reason. There is a place here, open less than a year, constantly advertising for staff. Right now he has 7 positions open out of maybe 15. If it is an ongoing issue, it is probably mismanagement. Unhappy employees handling food just makes me uncomfortable, to say the least. Former barista and assistant manager here. If the restaurant has a coffee machine visible, take a look at the steamer. If it's covered in white, means they don't clean after frothing the milk. Most likely they don't run steam after heating up the milk, meaning that there is residual milk inside the nozzle of the steamer, which gets burnt and generates bacteria. Don't order coffee in there. Also, most likely the cloth used to clean the steamer from time to time is disgusting and used for more than just wiping the milk out of it. A restaurant with a good philosophy about health and safety cleans the coffee machine every night. Does it sound like it could be 2 or more restaurants? Example, sushi and pizza at the same place. They can't do either well. How dare you insult Kentucky Hut Robins? If your meat or pasta, for example, has dry spots as if it was left out to dry for a good time, the kitchen is not properly covering/storing their prep correctly. The walk-in is most likely not taken care of. Edit for clarity, on let's say chicken, it's still raw. Someone leaves it out, it forms a skin looking almost like jerky. Chewy, an orangish/yellow color. That spot won't go away because someone has cooked it. Same kind of thing with pasta, but the pasta is always pre-cooked, waiting for you. There is no reason for your sensitive products to be left uncovered for that long. Too many menu choices. Dirty restrooms. Server staff seems more anxious. If there's a funky smell that's even slightly, or stronger, urine like, the restaurant probably has a rodent problem. Best to leave. Yup. Worked at a steakhouse that served incredible amazing food. Customers always complained about a funny smell. The steakhouse was, technically still is, attached to a mall that had a rodent problem. It's like living in a duplex and the one next to you has bed bugs. You're gonna get them BC there in the walls. All you can do is tear down the building or move. I saw rats often, and a handful of times they snuck out into the dining room and we had to quickly cover it up. The final straw for me was seeing the sous chef kill a rat with a big metal rod. I couldn't do it anymore. It's a shame BC, it's one of the cleanest restaurants I've ever worked at, in terms of dating and rotating food, good cross-contamination practices, etc. They were just in the wrong spot. The mall has closed down BC of the rat problem and the steakhouse is dying too BC now. It's common knowledge amongst locals. It's really a shame BC, it's not even something they can control entirely, just manage. Ask where your oysters come from. If they don't know, you don't want them. Works for most seafood. Excuse me, but can you tell me where your clams come from? The ocean? Question mark. A green flag is an open kitchen where you can see everything getting cooked. There's an open kitchen diner where I live and the food is killer. Not always the case. I've seen some pretty nasty open kitchens that have heavy focus on sight lines to make sure what the customer sees is clean, but everything else is trashed. You might have to be a chef to recognize this, but my red flag is going into a busy restaurant and noticing none of the tables have food, or not many customers are yet eating. This usually means the kitchen is going down in flames. One time I noticed this and could see some food slowly stacking up in the window, but no orders coming out. I mentioned it to the server and he replied, I wouldn't suggest ordering food. He brought our drink check and we left. He was tipped well for his honesty. The other day we went to a restaurant a little afternoon and it was packed with the lunch rush. My husband suggested maybe we get fast food, but I looked around and said everything was going to be fine because 80% of the tables already had food or a check. This reaction surprised him, because he's used to me seeing a crowded restaurant and saying nope and turning around. He doesn't understand what I'm looking for, which is a sign that the servers have shit under control, or are in the weeds. Not a chef, but worked at a KFC for a while, so here's a KFC specific thing. There are 2 towel colors for cleaning use at KFC franchises, at least in American ones, no idea about others. There are yellow towels, which are intended for surfaces that cooked foods will touch, and blue towels, which are only to be used in raw chicken areas. This is to prevent cross-contamination. Cooked chicken never touches raw chicken areas, and cooked and raw areas are never cleaned with the same towels. The thing to look out for? Raw chicken areas are usually not visible from the front counter, at least in most locations I've seen. If you see a blue towel, don't eat there. Now this isn't a hard and fast rule. I would recommend asking the cashier about it if you see anything suspicious. When I went to Europe, A KFC location in Amsterdam had blue towels and cleaning solution on top of all the trash cans in the lobby. They weren't for raw chicken, they just had a different cleaning procedure there. Perhaps they were following the common cleaning branch color coding. Blue equals interior, red equals toilets, yellow equals kitchen, green equals floors. Edit, this standard appears to have originated in the UK and may be more common in Europe than in the USA. https://www.nisbits.co.uk/color-coded cleaning. Not a chef but my best friend is, and he says a large menu. Chances are a lot of things on a menu means that they are frozen. Also, it's difficult to train people to be good at making 40 different things, so the quality is going to suffer. Edit, yes, some places like Chinese restaurants that are different combinations of about 30 fresh ingredients are an exception. Large menu is the biggest tell you're about to have a shit meal. If you absolutely have to order there, ask what the most popular dish is and just order that. I've heard that if you actually smell fish at a sushi restaurant, it's in your and your inside's best interest to hightail it out of there. Sushi is another one for when in doubt, there's no doubt. If you ever order something with crab, always ask what kind of crab is it? Even though it might sound like a snobby question, it will reveal whether it's canned or not. My favorite answer when I went out one time was, "What are you talking about?" Clearly indicating it was not fresh. Edited. Or, accept canned because I live 1,000 miles from the ocean. Rats in the restaurant cooking food. I saw a movie about that once. Not a chef but pest control, so I'm in and out of multiple restaurants all day, and I can tell you this, 95% of quick-serve fried chicken places are vomit-inducing. Particularly one based with an old guy as its mascot. Positive story, 20 years ago, before good Mexican food was available outside the Southwest, I had a business trip to California. I walked into a restaurant under an overpass near Oxnard. The fellow behind the counter saw that I was Anglo and called over his shoulder into the kitchen. A 10-year-old or so kid comes out and asks me what do I want to order and translates for his dad. Best Mexican food ever. Similarly, if you go into a Chinese or Asian restaurant and the owners/cooks are not speaking English, usually a good sign. If the head chef is crying and not wearing any clothes, it's probably best to move on. My friend and I had dinner in a restaurant where the kitchen was open to our part of the dining area. No lie, the cook was making food at the stove wearing a white tank undershirt, a pair of boxers and an apron. I still dream about that fish ravioli. This was in Cinque Terre, Italy. High turnover usually means poor management, and that means unhappy employees. Unhappy employees means that they don't give a shit about you or your food. I worked at a Pizza Hut and was on my third GM. I worked there for a year at that point and was the longest working employee. The GM wasn't the best person, but he could manage the store. We didn't like him for a number of reasons: racist, misogynist, slept with an employee while his wife worked there, etc. But he managed the store well and the turnover wasn't that high. Well, he got fired a couple months later and his assistant took over. Everyone liked her and wanted her to have the position, but she sucked at management. So much that we started to not like her. It was so bad. I left before it got too bad, but checked in recently and they had 13 people out of 20 quit or put in for 2 or so weeks. Management plays a big part in turnover. Not totally them as a person, but how they run the store. So bad management equals bad food. This entire thread is basically Kitchen Nightmares by Gordon Ramsay. Very binge-worthy, but the UK version is so much better than the US one. Except for Amy's Baking Company. I think Amy broke him.